Alright, what's going on, guys? So the gameplay has been out for a few days now, and we've had our chance to go through it multiple times. However, there are some absolutely crazy secrets that nobody seems to be talking about yet. For example, this thing on top of the hill that we all thought was the big goblet structure is clearly not and more resembles the head of a statue carved into the side of the mountain. But aside from that tiny one, there are a lot of other things we missed that could have some very big story implications, including a potential second Erd tree. But really quickly, before we get into that, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on all the latest Elden Ring news. This channel is going to be a big central hub for all things related to Elden Ring. And let me know down below, what are you most excited for in Elden Ring? For me, it's got to be the sheer freedom and the exploration provided to the player. But with that out of the way, let's get into more of these secrets. These aren't going to be in any particular order, but I want to start with one of the most exciting ones that I know a lot of people are going to be interested in, and that's going to take us to this room in Stormveil Castle. There are several differences to note about this room that have been changed from the Summer Games Fest trailer, such as this multi-armed guy that we've seen several times before, but in a different location every single time. In the leaked trailer, we can see it in a building with tables and columns, which could be the same room, but it's too difficult to tell right now. And then in the Summer Games Fest trailer, we can see one of them down in the catacombs. Now, there are minor differences between all of them, so I think this is just going to be some type of mini-boss. Now, the more important thing I wanted to get to in this is actually the painting in the background. As you can probably tell, this painting has been updated since the last time we saw it. In the gameplay, you can see that the painting is much more clear, and there's a lot in the way, but we actually have a good way to see this painting in its full glory. If you pre-order the collector's edition of Elden Ring from Best Buy, they throw in an extra steelbook, and this is the cover of the steelbook. Now, there's a lot to note in this. As of right now, we have no idea who this guy is. Clearly, he's part of the royal family, given the white hair and the crown. I want to note also that this guy is being promoted on official material just as much as the Valkyrie was, or Millennia as we now know her. So I would definitely go on to say that he is a demigod. Now, as for the lion in the background, I have seen a lot of people comparing it to the Wolf Knight or the Lion Knight, whatever it is, in the Summer Games Fest trailer, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. When we compare the two side by side, there actually is a strong number of similarities here. We can see that the mane and the beard are very similar. Even the helmet that the knight on the left wears is in a similar shape to the crown. While it's not exactly the same, the one on the left is big and it could be covering the crown beneath. They both have this humanoid shape with arms that bend like a human's, and the armor that lines their shoulder is plated the same while it's not exact. So there's a pretty good chance that these are the same character, but let's go ahead and move on. In the part of the gameplay when the player chooses to free Alexander, we can see something very strange in the background. If you look really closely, you can see these long tentacles writhing and moving off behind the trees. And I have absolutely no idea what that is, but if I had to guess, it's probably not friendly. In this shot here, we can actually see a third glowing mini Erd tree. In the past, we thought there would only be two, but I guess this means there's going to be a lot of them. In this shot here, we can see the player jump and shoot an enemy who's about to blow a horn and alert the rest of the camp. So we're seeing more Sekiro influence here. And speaking of Sekiro influence, look at this. In this scene, we can see the player cut their hand with their blade and use it to perform an uppercut just like Mortal Draw. In this next part where the player talks to Roger, take a look at the statues in the background. They appear to have stems and flowers climbing up from the floor at the bottom of them. But I couldn't help but notice how similar the flowers look to the snakes climbing up the unedited painting of the king. It could just be a coincidence, but I think there is something worth looking into since they both take place inside of Stormveil. During this nighttime riding scene, we can see a giant walking around atop the cliff. He does have a really large sword on his back, but it appears to be the same kind of giant that we've seen pulling the carts. These spirit summons are the same monkey creatures that we can see in this screenshot, although a few of them have different weapons. Next, I want to clear up a theory that's been going around about a potential second Erd tree, and let me explain the theory before I debunk it. It all stems from this shot right here. As you can see, the Erd tree appears to be completely surrounded by castle walls, but the problem is that we can see in other shots it's clearly not. Even the branches appear to be different than the one we've seen before. And so this sprung up a theory that Godric, being the lord of all that is golden, was attempting to recreate the Erd tree for his own power. And the dragons, being the true heirs to the Erd tree, descended on Stormveil Castle to stop him. Now, while I really love this theory and I think it's absolutely absolutely awesome. I don't think there are 2 Erd trees, and let me explain. I think this comes down to a problem with rendering distance in this gameplay footage, because the castles and the cliffs you see on the other side of the Erd tree here should be a very large distance away, and we know this to be the case because we can see that structure that I talked about at the beginning of the video sitting prominently at the peak of the cliff. As for the branches, the ones we're seeing here are the small offshoots beneath the canopy. Now I completely understand how people drew the conclusion of this being a different Erd tree. Even when I was watching this gameplay, I was like, dang, that looks a lot smaller than I thought it would be. And that's because the details on the environment in the background make it look a lot closer than it actually is. According to the map, there's a whole plain and a whole sea between Stormvale and the stuff off in the background. So this kind of created an optical illusion for everybody. Unless there's an exact copy of this cliff face connected to the backside of Stormvale Castle, unfortunately there is no second Erd tree. Now for one I just barely noticed. In this autumnal forest area, there's an NPC chilling at this fire right here. I thought he was a haystack since he blends in so well with the environment. But you can see he's got a small pointed hat on his head and he's sitting in a crisscross position. So don't go running past haystacks because they might be NPCs. These are just a handful of a lot of secrets that we're still continuing to find throughout this gameplay preview. And while we have more to dive into, I wanted to spend the remainder of this video talking about something very important that pertains to all of us Elden Ring fans. It's time to be careful. I've been hearing reports that a lot of spoilers are popping up on dark corners of the internet. I have absolutely no idea how people are getting access to this knowledge, but apparently it's out there. Personally, I'm not going to go looking for it, and this is where I need to tell you guys about the future of the channel until Elden Ring comes out. I am most likely done covering leaks that pertain to the story of the game or bosses. While it's fun to speculate and talk about the lore, we're getting more and more official context, and there's a point where a leak just becomes a blatant spoiler. And I don't want to get spoiled on stuff, and I know a lot of y'all don't, so when it comes to leaks, I'm not going to be covering stuff that's delving into spoiler territory. Now the speculation and the analysis is going to continue, because that stuff just comes straight from my brain. I don't actually know anything or if any of it's true. I just enjoy sharing my ideas, and I think it's really fun. Now for a bit of housekeeping. Those of you that continue to watch all of my videos, you may have noticed there has been a significant decline in views, and that the growth of the channel has come to almost a complete halt over the past few weeks. Now I don't know what the cause of this is. I think it's mainly just on YouTube's side, since recommended impressions are down almost 75%. Now I'm always trying to improve my content, but as we get closer and closer to Elden Ring, the need for new style content is getting smaller and smaller. So, while I have my ideas for a new direction to take the channel in, I also want to hear your feedback. When Elden Ring comes out, what kind of content are you going to be most looking forward to? I'm going to be doing a Let's Play, and I'm still going to be covering news when it's available, but there's a lot of ground there that's going to be unaccounted for. So if you could give me your feedback on that, that would be greatly appreciated. But anyways guys, that's going to pretty much do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here, but I'll catch you in the next one.